But we're going to talk about a company called Palantir. It's a notoriously secretive American surveillance firm that has managed to work its way into the very heart of the UK's most sensitive data, from the military all the way to the National Health Service.
And look, this isn't just some vague worry from outsiders. That is a direct quote from two senior systems engineers who are currently working inside the Ministry of Defense. They've decided to speak out because they believe the risk is just that high.
Which, of course, brings us to the big question we're tackling in this explainer. How in the world did this happen? How did a company with deep ties to U.S. intelligence end up holding the keys to the UK's data kingdom?
Well, to answer that, you first have to understand the company at the center of this whole storm, Palantir itself. Palantir's story isn't your typical startup garage tale. It kicks off in 2003, and get this, its very first big check came from In-Q-Tel, which is literally the CIA's own venture capital firm. For years, their bread and butter was pretty much what you'd expect, building these powerful data analysis tools for clients like the NSA and ICE, the U.S. Immigration Agency. But then, in 2020, they made a massive pivot into a whole new territory, Britain's NHS.
And when you look at their track record, it's pretty revealing. The company's technology was a key part of the NSA mass surveillance programs that Edward Snowden blew the whistle on. It helped power Donald Trump's immigration policies, including workplace raids. It's also been the engine behind so-called predictive policing tools in the U.S., which have been slammed for discriminating against minority communities.
You know, this isn't just about the tech. It's also about the whole ideology behind it. The company actually published a manifesto recently that was so extreme, members of the British Parliament described it as sounding like the ramblings of a supervillain. I mean, a supervillain. That's what they're saying about a major government contractor. It's pretty wild.
So, with a background like that, you have to wonder, how on earth did they get a foothold in the UK's beloved National Health Service? Well, the answer, like so many things, is rooted in the chaos of the COVID-19 pandemic.
This right here, this is the price Palantir charged for its very first and most crucial contract with the NHS. £1 Right at the height of the pandemic, when all the normal bidding rules were thrown out the window, Palantir swooped in and offered its services for, basically for free.
That £1 deal was the ultimate foot in the door. Once their system was in, once it was woven into the fabric of the NHS, the price tag just exploded. The first renewal jumped to £1 million. The next one, $23 million. They used that emergency no-bid contract to become the indispensable provider, and today they hold a permanent NHS contract worth hundreds of millions.
But the financial cost, as steep as it is, isn't the only concern here. Not by a long shot. Insiders and experts are now sounding the alarm about the strategic price the UK is paying for this deep, deep integration.
To really grasp the risk, you need to know about a concept that intelligence pros call the mosaic effect. The idea is actually pretty simple. You take a whole bunch of individual pieces of data that seem totally harmless on their own, but when you put them all together, they can paint a picture that is incredibly sensitive.
And this just illustrates the danger perfectly. An insider from the Ministry of Defense gave this exact hypothetical: a NATO part number, an address, a date. Each one of those is unclassified, not a big deal. But Palantir's software is designed to connect exactly those kinds of dots, and in this case, those dots could reveal the precise location of a nuclear submarine on a very specific day.
So here's the crucial point. The government keeps saying, don't worry, the UK owns the data. But as that mod insider points out, that's almost irrelevant. It's like reading someone's secret love letter. Once you've read it, you know the secrets. Promising not to make a photocopy doesn't make those secrets safe again. The knowledge is already out there. And this deep-seated fear about data privacy isn't some new thing for the British public. Even before Palantir landed its massive contract, 3.3 million people in the UK had already gone out of their way to use the national data opt-out to stop their health data from being shared. And the situation could be about to get a whole lot worse. A recent YouGov poll found that nearly half of all adults, 48%, are likely to opt out if a private company like Palantir is running the show. A mass opt-out on that scale, it would be catastrophic. It would poison the well, degrading the quality of NHS data and making it far less useful for research and planning.
So you see, this isn't just about data privacy anymore. It's really about national security, national sovereignty, and whether the public can actually trust its own government with its most personal information.
At the very heart of that national security concern is what you could call the Thiel factor. Palantir's co-founder, Peter Thiel, is one of the most powerful and well-connected people in Donald Trump's circle.
And that, understandably, raises some very real questions about whether a future U.S. administration could potentially access or leverage UK data for its own purposes.
And what's really striking is how the UK's all-in approach to Palantir compares to other countries. Take the Swiss Army, for instance. They looked at Palantir's technology and flat-out rejected it, specifically because they were worried the US government could get access to their sensitive data. So you have two nations looking at the same tech and coming to completely opposite conclusions.
Then, beyond the security risks, you have the huge problem of dependency. Once a company's software is this deeply embedded, you get what's called vendor lock-in, which makes it incredibly difficult and expensive to ever switch. And this is all made worse by a real lack of transparency. Contracts are blacked out, key government briefings are kept secret. Critics are basically saying that UK regulators are asleep at the wheel.
All of this brings the UK to a really critical moment, a kind of data crossroads, where it has to make some huge decisions about its digital future.
And the central conflict here is crystal clear. On one side, you have the incredible promise of data-driven efficiency, of using information to make our public services smarter and better. But on the other side, you have these massive flashing red lights about the risks to our privacy, our national security, and just the basic accountability we should expect in a democracy.
And that really leaves us with one final, crucial question. This technology is only going to get more and more powerful. It's going to become more and more a part of our lives. But as the tech gets smarter, how do we make absolutely sure that our governments and the decisions they make for all of us are getting smarter too?